Hi, Prime Minister Mark Carney, Alessi Pasufumi with the Canadian Press. A lot of the criticism of C5 seems to be focused on the hasty way that your government put the bill together. Do you have specific projects you're hoping to greenlight once the bill gets royal assent, and is that why you have rushed it through Parliament?
No, I thank you for the question. It's actually the other way around. We need this legislation in order to begin the process of determining those nation-building projects. This legislation, in effect, is enabling legislation. It creates the ability to have nation-building projects. It creates the ability to flip, as I said, and as you've seen in legislation, the attitude towards those projects once they are selected, once conditions are put in place, how those projects can move forward as opposed to why. But this is where the real work begins once this becomes legislation, obviously moving to the Senate and beyond, but once it becomes legislation, is this process of identifying those projects. Now, the provinces have made a number of suggestions, many of them, potentially quite good suggestions, but the engagement needs to move from higher level concepts to more specific projects. The partnerships that need to be established will begin now, in effect, and the first step in that process will be those meetings I referenced, those launch meetings with Indigenous peoples, beginning with First Nations, then the Inuit and Métis. So that's the process to determine them. And last point, the projects obviously do need to meet the criteria that's set out in the bill.
And I appreciate that you're mentioning now that you're having these meetings. I've been talking to chiefs and community members for the last 3 weeks, and they're talking about damaged relationships that your government, or sorry, the Liberal Party has built over 10 years. Was passing the bill in this way worth damaging those relationships? Well,
I think there's a couple of things I'd put. One is that we've had consultations for this legislation with over 125 different Indigenous groups, organizations, first point. Second, this bill, which we ran on in the federal election, to be clear, the core of our offering in the federal election was to build Canada strong, was to build in a new way, was to build in response, to build at home one Canadian economy, the name of this act, but not just the name, the essence of this act, to build and to be masters in our own home, collectively, but to build in a truly Canadian way. And a truly Canadian way is in full partnership with Indigenous peoples, which this creates the ability to do so, in fact creates the requirement to do so, and we were clear throughout this. It was one of the biggest differences between the way we approach infrastructure in these projects and other parties, virtually every other party in the federal election, and also in a way that respects and is consistent with our environmental commitments. Thank you.